Hello, Sarah.
Hello.
First of all, I'm very appreciate you welcome our interview request.
Yes, I'm happy to do it.
Yeah, you have so interesting background, and you also have been in Turkey before, actually.
Yeah.
And can you please talk about your story, your background, and your story of joining to the Moz as an number eight employee, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, happy to do that. So, yeah, it is an honor to be interviewed by you. I have a real fondness in my heart for Turkey, and the Turkish people, I think, are so kind and so welcoming. I did a study abroad in Istanbul and was very impressed with um, how generous the Turkish people are and how much they like to sing when they get together, and they have a lot of fun. And
It looks like you get lots of experience in Turkish culture.
yes, I sure did, and their love of music and eating and good food, and to be surrounded by so much history and art was really, really something. So I have a lot of very fond memories.
Yeah, actually,
of
if
that
you
time.
love to read or explore about history, it's one of the best places to be.
Exactly, and one of the classes I took was an art history class, art of the
Actually, for
world
Turkish
history.
culture and Turkish history.
I did study the history of the Turkish language, and I studied art history that didn't have a Turkish focus of just Turkish art, but because so much of the world's great civilizations were either centered in or around Turkish history, I really felt like you could see a lot of the influence.
Why did you prefer Turkey and the exchange program? I think you have been in Koç University.
Yes, I was at Koç University. Well, to be honest, I didn't have proficiency in a foreign language to be able to study abroad in a native language. So I spoke a little French, but my French wasn't good enough to study
you
French.
need to have some.
Yeah, generally, yes, right, to go to university
I
in
think
Germany.
English is now
Yes, and so what I valued about Koç University is that they taught in English, and so it was a way for me to have a really different cultural experience and still do study abroad, and even with my unfortunately limited language skills. So that was one of the reasons I ended up in Turkey. I thought this is going to be a really unique cultural experience, but I can continue moving my education forward and succeed there. So, and it was great. It exceeded my expectations, actually. And it was an interesting time to be there because the terrible earthquake had just happened.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and
when
people.
Did you have been in Turkey?
So the earthquake happened, I felt like end of July, beginning of August, and it must have been 1999.
Okay, you have been in Turkey in 1999?
Yes, and it was changing
really
the new year to year 2000. So I celebrated New Year's Eve.
You have been on the August, right?
Yeah. I came at the very end of August, only weeks after that terrible earthquake, and it was a fascinating time for the people of Turkey and the amount of healing they were going through, and just the fear. And there were some aftershocks actually in the city at that time, and it was heartbreaking and fascinating to see. And then also doing the Y2K flip.
I didn't think that it's 1999 or something like really.
Yeah,
and actually, I think like it's like 2007 or 8 or something.
Yeah,
like
no. That's when I joined Moz, was 2007. No, this would have been. Because I remember there was a lot of fear around Y2K at the time, and that was the sort of global banking and travel all going to melt down when the computers flipped from 99 to 2000. I remember in particular family members feeling very nervous for me that I might get stuck in Turkey when this global meltdown happened. And obviously that ended up being a non-event. And I thought, a real privilege to be in such a historical capital of the world at that kind of momentous state change, and being in Taksim Square at that time was just a really wonderful experience. And I have a lot of fun.
You have been the best time of the Turkey actually, and before 2000, and it's not that much crowded, and if you're able to come to Istanbul at any time, and it's right now it's crazy and so crowded. So it was
a special time. I do want to go back. I and sort of revisit places and see how they've changed. And I also I spent time in Izmir and just lots of the little coastal cities. Is it really? Okay, so really beautiful and beautiful leather goods. I remember thinking like,
actually,
oh my God, the leather there is fantastic.
I will be in the Izmir for my wedding. Yeah.
Oh, congratulations to you!
So.
And I bet it's very hot there right now. I bet it's as hot as the Dickens there right now. And I still think Ephesus. I've got to do a lot of travel in the world, and I think Ephesus stands out for me as one of my most magical places I've ever visited for historical ruins. It's just nothing quite like it. And what a wonderful gift Turkey has and all of these famous sites. So
thanks
very
a lot.
very special time.
Yeah, I think that you start your professional career after then returning from Turkey to US after finishing your
exactly.
MS?
And so then I finished my undergraduate degree in literature and philosophy, and then I went to law school. And while at law school, I met, through a friend of mine at law school, I met Rand, actually. So he was studying law that his good friend was, and so we got to know each other and became friends. I graduated law school and then practiced law for a few years, and I was ready for a career change at about the same time that then SEO Moz was taking its first round of funding, so Series A capital investment. And
before you joined, right?
Yeah, so it was right about the same. So when I had given notice at my law firm that I was going to leave, at the same time that Rand and Jillian were talking to various investors. And so we knew and they knew that it was sort of on their horizon, and decided, let's try to make this work. And I believe the Series A closed, and my first start date was like the day after. Right?
Oh,
it was
really?
So it was a wonderful time of growth. Yeah, it was a wonderful time to be there, to be at Moz, and it was already then a very special place. And Rand and Jillian, I think, share a big passion around generosity and empathy for others, and you could really feel that in the amount of care and attention and love they had for both the broad SEO community and for the people who worked with them. And so I felt really lucky to be there, and it was a very big change for me from law. Very big change.
Very big change, actually.
Yeah.
What was your first position on the Moz? And I think it's not actually a law-related position.
My first job title was general counsel, which is very unusual. So it's basically being an in-house attorney for the company. And, I knew so little about running a business or a startup, and neither did Rand. And so, we didn't even realize how silly of an idea that was to have your own attorney on staff for a small company like that.
Yeah. And it's not a legally problematic business. It's just a software.
It's not highly regulated. It was a very unusual choice.
It's not like Uber, Lyft, and any other companies who are dealing with laws and etc.
Precisely. And so that should give you insight into how little we knew about running a business or a technology startup. And I really have a lot of gratitude for Rand and Jillian taking that and placing it on me. And I can't think of anyone else who would have hired me and allowed me to have the experiences that I was able to have at Moz. I got to learn this really exciting new area of marketing. I ran the marketing team for a while. I got to learn all about finance, and I had no background in finance before. I got to learn about product development. I had no background in product development, and got to a lot of learning by doing and learning through mentorship with other people. So just along this career at Moz, I feel like I've had the experience of a lifetime that has allowed me to see so many different kinds of things. And we've been through a lot as a company, and every single one of those experiences has taught me something. So I feel just a ton of gratitude.
And after then, being general counsel, what's your next position?
Yeah.
I think that you did lots of jobs.
Yeah.
What makes you a great CEO? Because you know all parts of the company. And
yeah, I aspire to be a great CEO. It's a constant learning, but so I was general counsel, and then I became the chief operating officer about 6 months in, and that was a really great title for me because it is kind of a meaningless title. It can mean a lot of different things depending on the company. What is operations, right? Yeah, and so it allowed me to be able to use influence to really learn a lot and hopefully move the business forward, always being the goal to move the business forward. And then so that was my longest tenured title. And then I was president for a brief period of time before taking on the CEO role about 3.5 years ago. So it's been, like I said, pretty incredible.
Yeah, what's changed in your life? And it's a big change for you. And being president or the CEO, and what kind of new responsibilities are on your arm? And maybe you can talk about this kind of stuff. And after that, I will ask the most feature vision.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think one of the things I admired about Rand is that he is very inclusive in his leadership, and he likes good ideas to come from anywhere. And so I was fortunate in my period as chief operating officer and as president to be able to influence the strategy as well. it's a big difference between influencing and owning the strategy. And so one of the things I took from Rand was how he really did like to listen to a lot of different people to get ideas of what to do at Moz. And I've tried to do the same thing, although in the end, the difference is I have to make the call, and there are certainly more than one way to have success, and there are many different paths open to Moz. And so I've had some successes and I've had some failures, right? In the end, I've made some good decisions and I've made some bad decisions.
And the good decisions always comes from the bad decisions and the data experiences. So
yes,
you learn from them.
I'm learning as I learn as I go, and we, the company, are learning, right? The people around me learn along with me, and and so that's been a very interesting shift from being the influencer to being the person who, in the end, still taking influence from others, but in the end you have to be accountable, right, to that, for better or for worse. There are other things that are sort of smaller in nature that have been impactful for me. For example, Rand was a very public CEO, just like he is a very public individual contributor. He's
a company's face.
Yes,
if you say
very
the most,
much. Yes.
Nobody not knowing Rand Fishkin.
Exactly. And so that's always been part of part of his influence and ways he's contributed at Moz. And for me, that does not come as naturally, and it isn't something I have invested in particularly, in part because Rand has always been there and he's so good at it. He's such a natural.
It's not like you can still learn it, but it's Rand's the approach in here is like more natural and coming from heart.
Yes, absolutely. And he has both the passion and the practice of it now after this many years. And so being in the CEO role, it is a more public role than president or chief operating officer. And so while I am still nowhere near Rand's level of external involvement, I have certainly increased the amount of external public-facing role.
Well, I think that is totally different, two different things. And being CEO, okay, you can still be the company face, but the contribution to the company and the community actually has a strong busyness, and the responsibility of the CEO role, it's not like a great balance. And sometimes I'm doing the best thing, and you are doing right now is the better way. And actually, on your case, I think that's why you are the CEO of Moz right now.
Yeah, I definitely think there's more than one way to be a CEO, and there are different kinds of CEOs, and they each bring their own strength. And I will never be Rand. I couldn't even attempt to be Rand, right? And he's one of a kind, and his gifts are so strong, and they're different than my gifts. And so certainly I have been more operational focused and will continue to be operational focused, although increasing my amount of external visibility. Even through things like this, right? I have never been comfortable on camera, but I'm learning to do so in time, right? I'm learning to do so, and it's part of the job, and to do more of that kind of thing. So, so there have been a lot of interesting changes at Moz, right? And we have been very much focusing on, I would say, core SEO in the last year, and improving the core experience of the product.
I think it's a great decision.
Thank you. Yeah, and we want to provide a really high quality experience. None of us get out of bed in the morning thinking, gosh, how can we make bad software? We all want to make something amazing that really helps people do their work and that they enjoy using. So most of the team has been focused on improving the core customer experience. And then we've also been working on some innovation on the local SEO side and really growing that part of the business as well, and have enjoyed some success with that. We have a big slate of projects that will continue to focus on core SEO, and probably those will wrap up around Q1 this coming year in 2018. Yeah, and some of those are through technology, and some of them are in, I would say, sort of customer experience and flow, and how the product is organized and how you use it, because we think we have a lot of opportunity to improve that. The product today does a lot that people don't even know about because it's hard to find and hard to use, and so we're hoping to solve some of those discoverability problems as well. And then after that, I have a lot of passion on two different things. One is continuing to track how the interface of search is evolving. There's, of course, voice initiated and there's voice response. There are these sort of cards. There's the mobile experience, depending on the size of your screen. From my view, search, there's never been a better time to be in search. I think it's becoming more ambient. It's everywhere around you now. And with that comes incredible opportunity because people are searching more than ever. It also comes incredible challenges because the interface of that search looks different, right? It's different if I'm talking to my Google Home than if I'm on my desktop or what have you. So that's fascinating, and we're going to continue to track how those different kinds of search results change in format depending on where you're doing the search. And that is a lot of work. I mean, it's exciting work. There's a lot of research to do in that area. And how do we understand those things? How do we track them? And then how do we help people optimize for these different contexts?
So also, it's the most mission, I think. It's not only software perspective, but also in a community. And this is what makes Moz is Moz. Actually, and focusing on the SEO again, in the product perspective, I really want to learn about that. SEO has a different fields, and in software market especially, and some tools are doing best scrollers, some tools are doing the best keyword checking, and all of them are focusing on the different fields. And what your feature approach about SEO will touch these endpoints, or will you continue to be a suite for marketers and all-in-one solution maybe?
I don't see Moz. One of the lessons I have learned is that it takes a lot more resources than we have at our disposal to do that breadth, right? We made an attempt to go into some content marketing, into social media marketing, and really we overextended ourselves because there are whole companies that have $50-60 million of investment just focusing on those one problems. And so that was a hard lesson to learn, a painful lesson to learn. And so we've refactored and instead have realized that we can still contribute to helping social media marketers or content marketers succeed, but we do it through teaching them about SEO. And we're going to stick to our core, which is SEO. And our core belief is that you will be a better digital marketer in general if you understand the basics of SEO. So Moz doesn't have to we don't have to be the end-all be-all for everyone. I don't need to have the tool that does all of your marketing activities, but I do want to be the tool you go to when you want to understand your SEO and how it's performing and how search is changing. So you shouldn't expect Moz to go beyond the purview of SEO. SEO is big enough and complicated enough that I think we can spend all of our time and effort there and still have lots and lots of work to do for a long time. And like I said, I think that's particularly true in this dynamic age where search is changing.
It's also hard for you, I think, as a CEO, you have many responsibilities, but also you need to improve yourself in different fields. But also actually, there's a search industry which is growing so fast. You also, you are not in product team, but you also need to understand what's going on here, and you also need to manage the team. And both of them are really different disciplines, but you also need to mix them together.
That's right. I mean, I'm just one human, and Moz is built of many people. Moz is bigger than any one person, and one of the interesting things I have learned is that change of having different people come into the company, they contribute something amazing, and then they move on to the next thing in their career. It's always emotionally challenging because I feel like I love everyone and there's so many great people, and it's hard when they leave. But the very fact of them leaving brings opportunity for new people to come in, which brings us whole new awesome ideas and set of disciplines and contributions we never could have imagined. And so this constant churning of people into the company that contribute something and then move on is how Moz stays creative and relevant and innovative. And so I think of my role as, like you said, I can't be a master of any one particular discipline. I can't. And I don't think it would be the highest service of the company. All I can try to do is create a place, an environment where great people want to come and contribute their special skill, and hopefully an environment where then we can actually incorporate it and use it and apply it, right? And that people can feel like they've learned and done great work here at Moz, and then launch them to whatever their next dream is, right? So that's my goal, because being an expert in any one thing is unachievable, frankly. For me, unachievable. Maybe others, but not for me.
You are doing it right, because I've read your one of interviews about the interview questions you need to ask about recruiting. Maybe you remember. What I love about the most, and you are asking to the people, are you lucky in the life? It's really crucial question, and
Yes.
it also aligns the people's approach and positivity and their
Yeah.
point of view to the life and etc. All kind of stuff. And
Yeah.
actually, for the recruitment as a CEO, one of your key responsibilities, and it's great to see that you are also doing good stuff in here. Actually, not only in SEO.
Yeah, I hope so, right? I hope so. I do think that's one of the things that makes Moz special is that it's a company that from the beginning, again, from Rand and Jillian as founders, always knew that it was part of a community, that it wasn't just, they were never just here just to build a great business. And that fits with my orientation in the world as well. Like I think of my job as a human being is to try to make the world a little better. And I don't think I could stay at a company whose only job was to make the company succeed. I consider that maybe my primary job because that's my fiduciary duty, my sort of legal duty. Like, okay, I've got to make this company succeed because if the company doesn't succeed, I can't hire great people, I don't have influence, and I can't do all those second and third order things I want to accomplish. And those things, you know, they start with how do we make the whole industry better? How do we make professionals better? How do we make this industry understood? How do we grow people to be great professionals in it and who are good to each other? How do we try to create an experience and a culture and as an industry that we all want to be a part of and can be proud of? And then once you get past the sort of SEO industry and industry and community, you get to like, how do we engage as humans on the planet civically, right? How do we create an entrepreneur or startup ecosystem that we are all proud of and want to be a part of, and that's fair and just. And you know, it all starts with that in that centerpiece. If I can make the business succeed, it will give me more and more of a platform to improve those other things that are really important to me. And that I think are other ways that when I die and they're looking back on my life, I want them to be able to say, you know, she cared about a lot of things and she was multidimensional and she tried to put her money where her mouth is and make the world a better place. And not just she made a lot of money for a company. Right? That would be a disappointment for me if that's the only legacy I get left behind. So.
Because of your human being, and you're not just the CEOs, are not the robots who are just increasing the revenues and etc. And also creating a culture that makes people happy. And I'm also managing an agency, and I cannot imagine such a world like that. All the Turkey people in the agency are unhappy people, but we are raising crazy amount of money, and then revenue is so high. But what kind of CEO or any person can be happy in such an unhappy situation in the office? And so it's kind of a multidisciplinary responsibility.
It is.
Yeah, but I can easily say that you are seeing the correct points according to my point of view. And
working on it.
Yeah.
You know, even the point you just raised around happiness, I think has been one that I've had an ongoing conversation in my mind about, that I've been learning, and as I experience new things, and as we have successes at Moz, and when we have failures at Moz, and we've had all these different kinds of experiences in between, even understand the notion of happiness and adding subtlety to that has been part of my growth, because I have discovered that sometimes the most important work I do, the best, most meaningful work I do, also happens when I'm the least happy, right? It can be the challenging work. Sometimes the right, good thing to do is the hardest, most painful thing to do. And I've learned that it's important for me to create an environment where we're all aiming for long-term happiness, but not short-term happiness.
Yeah.
And that true excellence only really comes from a little bit of discomfort, right? I'm either pushing myself technically to do something I've never done before, or I'm pushing myself to make a courageous, sort of morally right decision that's hard to make, or an unpopular decision that still has just got to be made. And I think that sort of notion of happiness earlier in my career, I would have said, I want everyone happy all the time. I want everyone to be smiley. I don't want everyone to have a bad day at Moz. And as I've gotten older and hopefully a little more wiser, I have reflected back on that and said, sometimes the best work is a little bit unhappy for a while.
Yes.
And it's only upon reflection. It's like if you run a marathon, right? While you're running it, you might feel like crap. And it might be the hardest thing. You think, why have I ever signed up for this? This is awful. Oh my God, I have so many more miles left to go on this marathon. I want to die. But when you get across the finish line and you reflect back and you feel like pride, you feel accomplishment, you feel satisfaction in a meaningful way, like that is the kind of happiness that I want to shoot
that
for.
Even the best marathon runners are not always running with full smiley face, and it's pain, and the pain comes with the growth, and
And the best athletes, right, when it gets to the point where running a marathon is easy and they can run it with a smile, what do? they start doing the ultra marathons, right? They up the ante. They up the ante on themselves because it's about like understanding that with discomfort comes growth, and that's really where the sense of longer happiness or achievement really comes from. So it's been just an interesting conversation that I still battle with today on what is the right amount of discomfort. You don't want people to be distressed, but you also don't want people to think like, oh, to fit in here, you have to be smiling all the time. It's like, okay to have a bad day. Like, we're all gonna have bad days.
Yeah, this wisdom teaches me a lot. I was still thinking like your first days, and everybody needs to be happy and everybody is smiling, and even something in general, and you cannot control the people's own lives, maybe the family problems, and always thinking to the people's face and seeing them unhappy. And as a CEO, because you are responsible with everything, and people always think that, is there something wrong on this department, this manager, and this middle manager, etc. And then you are thinking about it, but sometimes, focusing on the long-term happiness, and then watching the flow is the better way. Yeah, I think it's a great ending. So it's really a great lesson for me as a young CEO, getting experiences from such an experienced person like you. And thanks a lot for accepting our interview request.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Have a nice day.
Thanks. Have a nice day. Görüşürüz.
Görüşürüz. Bye bye.
Bye bye.